Hi, I wanted to address something that we hear a fair amount of times from women that are doing IVF treatments with the auto injector. And so a lot of times they are given these 3 ml syringes from their providers along with a 1.5-inch needle. So what we have here is a 3 ml syringe with an 1.5 inch 25 gauge needle. Oftentimes, unfortunately, they're also given these 22 gauge, very large needles that I call a harpoon. They're very uncomfortable, but it is what it is. So I will talk about what happens sometimes when the challenge is that they get these syringes from their providers and the body of this syringe, meaning the length of this syringe, is much shorter. And so what ends up happening is when the injector is fully fired, after it fires, they see some of the needle that is not completely injected, right? The needle does not go to the end. So that is concerning for them because they believe that that is not going to give them the full penetration that they need for the intramuscular injection. Now, we can debate that. Being that there's so much needle exposed, this is more than adequate for an intramuscular injection for most women, unless there is a very, very thick layer of adipose tissue, otherwise known as fat tissue. So this, you can see, is a light touch syringe. So this syringe is not ideal. So the challenge with this is that the manufacturer tried to make this syringe or this auto injector versatile enough to use and work with a lot of syringes and needle combinations that are on the market. But with that said, it can't work with all of them. And here's the reason for that. Again, this light touch, you can see that it's a little bit shorter. And so we have some other various syringe combinations here. So the auto injector is meant specifically to work with a BD syringe, and this is Becton Dickinson. The problem with the BD syringes are most providers don't give the BD syringes because they are very expensive. They're much, much more expensive than a lot of the other alternatives. But what happens is when we use this syringe, you can see that it comes very close to the end of that, and you get nearly the full penetration of that needle when it fires. So let's look at that again compared to the other one. Now it's still a tiny bit, like maybe 1/8 of an inch of the needle is still not injected. So what we have also found is that there is a great alternative on the market that is much more affordable. And that is this guy. That is the XL 3 ml syringe. And I will put the description of the actual model number on the video here. And I think it's 26300. Don't quote me on that. And so now what we will do, it is very, very close in length of the syringe body to the BD. And a fraction of the cost, you can get these for much, much cheaper. So you can see right there, this goes almost exactly to the end of the auto injector and giving you that full penetration. In my opinion, over the years, selling thousands of these and working with women on IVF treatments, and especially our clinic is primarily hormone replacement therapy clinic, we never use 1.5-inch long needles. It's just unnecessary. The longest we ever do is a 1-inch needle with a 25 gauge syringe, 25 gauge needle, I'm sorry. A 1.5-inch 22 gauge needle is very big, especially for women that have to do PIO injections. They have to do these every single day. So they're using these giant harpoons, very long, very large gauge needle, and it ends up with a lot of post-injection pain and soreness. Now, this 25 is going to dramatically reduce that. The 25 gauge, meaning that's a smaller diameter of needle, and also a 1 inch is more than adequate. I have done all of the research on the literature to exhaustively look at if there are any positive claims in the literature to support that a 1.5-inch needle has a higher efficacy for FET or IVF treatments, and there is none. So I hope that's helpful. If anyone has any questions or would like to get an auto injector, please reach out to us and we would be happy to help you. Thank you.